Not here.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Sunday night recap presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Simon, joined by my co-hosts, Jay, Josh, and John Luke, a.k.a. JL. What's up, guys?
What up?
What's happening?
Let's go. Football's back, boys. Let's go.
Back.
Look, I'm watching this one game right here. The Chiefs and the Browns, they're so close. I'm happy. I'm just happy right now.
I am also
just
happy.
hyped.
I digress.
We got some people in the chat who I'm sure are also hyped about Week 1 football being back. Banda Barry was the first one in here. Congrats, you made it.
First,
and Marie in here saying she can't wait for her recap. And we got Nitty Gritty already in here bringing up the receipt saying, who said Ayuk was better than Debo?
I never said it. I never said it. I never said it.
I've been a Debo stan since the Scott Fishbowl draft, let me just say. Beginning of time.
Go back in our videos. Don't go back too far because you might find some ones I don't want you to watch. But hey, I kind of said this about Ayuk. I said this about Ayuk. I was worried where his targets were going to come from, how he's going to be as fantasy successful as he was last year. And he didn't get a target.
You did. You've been saying.
There were concerns about how that was going to be split. We never saw Ayuk successful with Debo and Kittle on the field for an extended period of time, and we're getting some answers today. Though it is Week 1, I want to remind everyone it is just Week 1. But today, Debo looked like the alpha on that team for sure for the receiving core, not Brandon Ayuk. Jay Wall in the chat saying, "Let's get it!" Indeed, Jay Wall and Nitty Gritty with the woo. And I think you mean the Browns game, J-Wall. The Browns game. This Browns game.
That's the Chiefs game.
Now it's a Chiefs game. I just saw that. Now it is a Chiefs game. And Anthony's saying Sunday FYF. That's what I'm talking about. That's right. You can't get rid of us. We are here on Sundays now, too. And we got FanDuel in here as well saying, what a week. It was
a week.
This has been a fun week of football. And we're going to break down a bunch of these games. Nathaniel in here saying, I waste so much money losing.
I love that he came in here to be like, damn it.
I've lost some money in the past, but we're good. We're good. Winning money this week.
We're going to get through this, Nathaniel.
That's what fantasy football is about. Losing money and making friends. Fantasy football.
Exactly.
Nitty Gritty in here. And it's Mr. Jackie Moon. Yeah, a week. Absolutely. And Beamer Cleaner, welcome in. Sup, guys? Hope you all got dubs. We still got to wait to find out a bit for some of our leagues. Guys,
I want to go ahead and I had a good week, so I got some W's.
I, too, got lots of
good week, too. I had a good week. I'd like to add it up. go through 20 leagues, so we'll figure it out.
Yeah, this is gonna take a while.
That was the worst this morning when the Odell Beckham news came out. The four of us were on a call just hanging out. And I was like, I know I have him in like 5 lineups, but I'm not sure where. I have to go find him.
Yes, I got to check every single one.
I did. All 17 lineups I had to go and check, make sure OBJ.
And then meanwhile, you got to go through all those lineups. You're like, wait, do I have Jarvis Landry as well? Should I be playing him? Man, the day notifications always get me.
Yes. We are already getting into it. So I think we should go ahead and pull up that first game. We're getting into some of these things already. I'm going to go ahead and pull up that first game we're going to talk about. And the first one we're going to talk about today, guys, the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Houston Texans. And this went exactly like everyone thought it would, right? The Houston Texans.
Yeah, for sure. I called it from the start. Yep, I called it from the start. Mark Ingram's definitely going to lead in carries. And Laviska Shenault was going to be mediocre.
We all knew that.
Well,
we all knew
I knew Danny Amendola was going to catch a touchdown today. I don't know about you guys, but I had Danny Amendola over for touchdowns for my prop bet, so I'm good.
Hey, see, you can say Laviska was mediocre, but all I see is that he had the most catches on that team. So
listen,
that's all I'm going to say. Every time he had the ball in his hands, he looked good. So I'm still on the Laviska train.
If you didn't call Chris Manhertz breakout week 1 from a mile away, then you're blind. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
and one of the things that stood out to me the most about this game is Carlos Hyde getting more rushing attempts than James Robinson. JL, you brought that up before when we were on our stream together when we were talking earlier, and man, and Carlos Hyde was just as efficient. I mean, 4.9 yards a carry to James Robinson's 5. Do we kind of expect this going forward? Do we expect that James Robinson is going to get less carries than Carlos Hyde every week?
I mean, I definitely had brought up in previous weeks that Carlos Hyde will likely have a larger role than most people were expecting. He played for Urban Meyer in college. Urban Meyer did not draft James Robinson, and it's just likely that they're going to split carries with ETN going out. And so this was definitely a little bit more lopsided than I thought. I did not expect it to go this far, but also it was a weird game. So I don't know how much we can extrapolate. I don't expect this split going forward all the time.
That being said, this was a weird game script wise, but if the Jaguars got this down to the Texans, how regular of an occurrence is this game script going to be for the Jacksonville Jaguars going throughout this season?
Great point.
Like we brought up, this was a weird game, but if the Texans put them in that weird game script where they're down trying to make a comeback, I have to imagine we're going to see more of that throughout the season. Now, that's not saying Hyde is going to get more carries, but this game might be a bit more predictive than give it to the Jacksonville team looks really bad out there right now. Just truly awful.
And this was a concern with James Robinson too, because he was extremely inefficient last year. If he's not getting the bulk of the carries, you're lucky if he's going to be a running back too. He's going to have to fall into the end zone for him to return that value. He's not going to be the RB1 like he was last year, especially with Hyde getting run. As you can see, Laviska Shenault got a carry out of the backfield. So if he's getting a little less than half the carries out of this backfield, it's not going to be pretty for James Robinson.
I'll tell you this, what might be a saving grace is he got 7 targets. So in a PPR league, I do think he's still going to be relevant fantasy wise. I don't think anyone's not saying he's not going to be relevant going forward.
No.
But he's definitely not going to be a running back 1, like you said, Jay. But if he can continue to get 7 targets a game, he's going to have better weeks ahead.
Yeah. The other thing that stood out about this game, obviously the running back was the most shocking, was how much they spread the ball out offensively to their receivers, though. I mean, just look at that down there. 3 targets for DJ, 5 for Jones, 7 for Visca, 6 for O'Shaughnessy, 3 for James Robinson. They really spread the ball out. Nobody was hyper targeted. This might be a
DJ Chark had 12 targets.
DJ
12 targets, 3 catches. DJ Chark, 12 targets, 3 catches.
By the way,
he turned that into a touchdown and 86 yards, so that's solid. But
by the way, Jay Wall came in here and said Damian Harris fumble, and it's true. I'm watching it. It's Dolphins ball. It's Dolphins ball right now.
Yes, he did. And Damian Harris has been looking good, by the way.
He has.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll get to that game.
It sucks to see him fumble.
Yes.
We will get to that game. Guys, everyone watching, if you are enjoying our recap so far, you want to make sure you don't miss this next week. subscribe to the FanDuel YouTube channel and hit that like button on this video. Let us know you're here and enjoying it. We'll be here every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern time.
No,
7 p.m. Eastern time. Sorry, I'm in Texas. 6 p.m. Central time, 7 p.m. Eastern time.
Everything's bigger.
Including the clock, except the clock is smaller.
Yeah, I was about to say numbers are smaller.
That's not how that works.
Whatever.
That's not.
And if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. We love answering any fantasy related questions you might have or NFL related questions.
We do. Any start sits, any waiver wire questions you have? Maybe you lost a player today. Maybe you had Jerry Jeudy, or if you just want to come here and brag about.
We got somebody playing tonight too. We got a game tonight. We got a game tomorrow night. So
we have a game.
You're here at football o'clock. That's all that matters. That's the time.
I feel like Bill Belichick says that all the time. Never ask Bill Belichick for the time.
Also, Jay, we had a question specifically for you. We talked about it a little bit already, but are you worried about Visca after this game?
I'm not. As big of a Laviska Shenault fan as I am, I was never delusional thinking he was going to be, a wide receiver 1 every week. He was a wide receiver 3 with, upside depending on the matchup. I did think he would do a little bit better, but I watched a lot of this game. He was involved. They used him all over the field. He was electric when he had the ball in his hands. So not worried about Visca whatsoever.
I think 9 hits and a carry shows they're still trying to use him in different ways around the field. I'm not too worried either, Jay. I agree with you as well. Don't look at the final score. Look at how he was used, and he seemed to be used pretty well during that game. Annie, FYF, the only place I go for fantasy football recaps. Thank you. It's the only place. It's the only place I go for fantasy football recaps on FanDuel at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Sundays as well.
Absolutely.
It's actually football o'clock, Simon.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's my bad. Eric saying nothing weird about a Texans victory. I'm not sure I would agree with that Texans. One right there. Say the first place Texans first.
Yeah, everybody else in the division lost.
I guess we do have to mention that the Jaguars were the worst team in the league last year.
They were. That's
true. That
Is that how that works? They give the first pick to the team.
Yeah. Just throwing that out there. Just let's not hype up the Texans yet.
What's up, Madeline? Tuies are here from Cleveland. Go Browns. Go Browns indeed. I'm trying not to let my bias seep through, but go Browns. They're going to end up winning this game. But
they're
Browns.
driving. They're trying.
Simon, I'm just glad you have a shirt on underneath that.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
God's sake.
Well, I figured week 1 shirt, week 2 no shirt is what's going to happen.
Fair enough.
So guys, from this game, real fast, Mark Ingram, that stood out to me maybe the most, actually, even more than James Robinson losing carries to Carlos Hyde. Mark Ingram, 26 carries. I mean, he was completely inefficient, so maybe that decreases his role going forward. But I think people were betting on both David Johnson and Phillip Lindsay over Mark Ingram going into the season. So,
yeah, for sure.
I'd been drafting Phillip Lindsay the entire offseason late, but last week we did start hear rumblings from camp during the preseason that Ingram was the back that was leading. So I did draft Mark Ingram in my my second to last draft, not my last one. The last one was like 30 minutes before kickoff, but that last draft, I think they weren't lying there, and we're going to continue to see this at least for a couple more weeks unless Ingram just absolutely falls off a cliff.
Do you think it's this lopsided, or do you think it evens out somewhat?
So I think we got to bring up the fact that they were winning all game, and maybe they were trying to conserve Phillip Lindsay and David Johnson a little bit, and maybe Mark Ingram's not even their real, workhorse back, and they were just wanted to use him this game. So I think we do need to see a week or two further. I'm excited to see what happens next week with the Texans. Right?
Well, plus, he's an older back too that's had trouble staying healthy. So even if they do give him 26 carries, a game, is he going to be able to make it through the season if that's the case? So.
Yeah, do you think they're gonna have 41 rushing attempts a game, or like we were talking about with that seems unlikely? Just like this was a weird game script for the Jaguars. I don't expect the Texans to be up big in many games this season. This might be an anomaly, so we likely won't see as much rushing work at all.
Let me ask you guys this: each of you, we'll go down the line here. If Mark Ingram's on your waiver wire this week, which he likely is, I would imagine for most leagues, are you picking him up? And how much fab are you spending if he is?
Yeah, I'm picking him up. It's really, and it's a cop-out answer. It depends if I have someone to drop, and if I have a free spot on my bench, how much fab am I spending? If I have $100 budget, I'm not overpaying for him because, like we already said, this is not going to be a good offense. They're never going to get this many 41 carries a game. And I mean, with 3.3 yards a carry, that doesn't get me excited. So I'll spend, let's see, he had 1 reception for no yards. He's not really going to be the receiving back. I'd spend a couple bucks. I wouldn't spend any more than $10 unless I really need a running back.
I would spend exactly $0. I'll do a free pickup. Yeah, I don't believe it. I think it's going to be an ugly backfield this season. Like Josh said, if I've got a spot, that end of the bench spot that you're just churning, trying to get that lottery ticket, sure, I'll take a chance, but I'm not spending any of my fab on them.
What about you, Simon?
I'm in a line with Jay. If I need a running back desperately and Ingram's out there, I'll try to pick him up, but I'm not spending too much on him. Like I don't expect them to run the ball this much throughout the season at all. And even when they do, I don't expect Ingram to get this much of a advantage when it comes to number of carries. I don't think we'll see this continuing. Anthony in here saying he'll drop Lindsey for Ingram and spend 8% fab. So getting some specifics in there. So he's got a little bit more, that's about the same amount of fab you said there, Josh. You said $10 out of 100, 8% fab.
I said I wouldn't spend any more than $10. Maybe $10 if like it was a horrible situation I was in. So
right, like
8% is
extremely desperate for a running back type of situation.
Extremely, exactly.
Okay,
otherwise,
guys, before we move on,
maybe 1 or 2. Sorry,
no, you're good. Before we move on to the next game, were there any other takeaways from this game you guys wanted to bring up?
Yeah, Brandon Cooks, everybody
That's
was talking about how that he does it every year. Everywhere he goes, he somehow winds up with 1,000 yards, and he's going to do it again. And he was practically that's messed up, JL, but he was practically free. Nobody wanted him anywhere because of the situation in Houston. And I think he's going to if he's able to stay healthy, I think he's going to wind up on a lot of championship rosters.
Yeah.
Damian Amendola too. Damian Amendola is a great name to throw out.
Yeah, predicted that.
He was involved. He was involved in the offense. He wasn't.
He was on the team.
It was a last minute ad, and then all of a sudden he catches the ball, and you're like, "Oh shit, Danny Amendola's on the Texans." It just happens out of nowhere. But he was surprising today, and someone I think you might be able to get some decent production from this season. I think he's a flexible player. Danny Amendola is like you're not going to want to start him,
flexible.
But I think
I've started Danny Amendola in the past, and you're.
He's that guy that comes up on your bench every week. And then as soon as you put him in your lineup, he's going to get one catch for 7 yards.
Exactly. So yeah, he's gonna have big weeks going forward, but you're never gonna know when they're happen. I bet you there's gonna be some 1 point, 2 point games out there too.
We don't know. Mr. Scamper's in here. I think this is the best analysis of Houston as a whole. What even is Houston? It's Tyrod Taylor's team, apparently. Because he went out there and he had himself a pretty damn good game, Tyrod Taylor did. Okay, guys, I think we should move on to the next game. The next game we are going to be talking about today is the Chargers-Washington football team game. Final score, 20-16, with the Chargers leading the way. Josh, you said what a game. So you have volunteered yourself to talk about this first.
Rookie mistake.
What did I do? No, the Chargers. What stood out to me most about this game was Keenan Allen. I mean, it didn't stand out to me the most. It confirmed Keenan Allen is a great receiver. He is going to be a PPR monster for the rest of the season. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of us already knew that maybe, but what stood out to me the most is how good Mike Williams was while Keenan Allen was a PPR monster.
Yes.
I think both of these guys with Justin Herbert taking the next step can be fantasy relevant, both of them going forward. So I'm excited for Mike Williams as long as he's healthy.
Yes, give me all the Mike Williams love.
Yeah, and Herbert didn't even have that great of a game. Yeah, he had over 300 yards, but he only threw for 1 touchdown. So, you add a couple more touchdowns in there, one for Keenan Allen, another for Mike Williams.
Yep.
Watch out.
Yeah, I love to see the volume for Mike Williams go up. Like that has been the concern pretty much his whole career up till now. Is just he has these big plays, he flashes, and then nothing. And so if he can sustain that amount of volume week to week, hopefully this is his breakout season. This is, we're going to see Mike Williams shoot up in drafts next season.
if he can stay healthy. Every
If
time
he
he
can
catches
stay
the
healthy.
ball,
He's like
when he
goes
goes
down
on the
hard.
ground, he looks like he's getting chokeslammed by the
him and Kittle, man, they play so
goes hard.
violently and
Violent,
recklessly.
They play hard.
It is
And
nuts.
so does like Debo Samuel and LaVisca. So, I mean, just reasons maybe to be concerned about them going forward from an injury perspective. Just then throw their names out there.
Yeah.
Guys, we had a question I thought was interesting. This is back to the Texans-Jaguars game. Andre says, so David Johnson will be more involved than Lindsey and Ingram in negative script games, so he would be the better running back for the season. Do you guys think that David Johnson will be more involved in a negative game script than Ingram or Lindsey?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I would expect more negative game scripts from Houston. So, yeah, David Johnson might be the best back to own there. Jay, I saw you contemplating down there. What do you think about this?
I really just think this backfield's going to be ugly. I think it's going to be a week-to-week scenario. I think you're going to have the one guy that falls to the end zone, gets the majority of the carries, and I really just don't want any part of this offense. Obviously it doesn't look like that's the case this week, but they're not going to play the Jaguars every week. So for me,
The Browns
really
just had a big sack. Sorry.
It was the biggest sack.
Such a big sack.
The
Who
biggest.
did it? Who sacked
Miles.
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 Sack. Yeah.
Classic.
He's got the biggest.
Oh, boy.
He always
Oh,
has the
man.
biggest
This
sack.
game is- I'm going to do my best to keep talking, but I just full disclosure, I am a Browns fan, and I did not expect to have this exciting of a game against the Chiefs week one.
You
Jail's
even
mom
said this
here.
morning, you're like, do the Chiefs, do the Browns even have a chance to win? So
And here they are with a chance. This is all I asked for, right? Dale's mom in here saying, at least it was close. Every game I watched was a blowout. Sorry about the Falcons, Simon. That's okay, because I'm not even a Falcons fan, so it works out. I do cheer for them when the Browns aren't playing, though. Brock in here saying, go Browns. Oh, man. There we go. There's the Browns
Get out of here, Brock.
And we skipped your message earlier. You know what? He said, I lose money every year in fantasy, just a donation every year.
You know
We're
what?
going to start a support group with you and Nathaniel. You and Nathaniel can be the first part of the support group for losing money on fantasy. And we'll send out invites later today, guys.
I started putting a Josh Fuster guarantee on everyone that watches our stream every day. They will not lose money in fantasy. It's impossible, physically impossible. It's a guarantee by me personally that if you watch
I'm
us,
going to hop off real quick, and I'm just going to watch the show. Is that a money back guarantee that you're going to just start handing out?
It's a Josh Fuster guarantee. Yeah. Josh Fuster.
Guys,
Jeff Fuster.
The other thing.
Yeah, Jeff.
Guys, some other major stuff happened during this game that we probably need to talk about. Ryan Fitzpatrick went down, and Taylor Heineke is now taking over. What does that change for you guys when evaluating this offense going forward? Does it make you more excited, less excited about the receiving options, the rushing options? Josh?
Heineke had 122 passing yards, 11 completions. I am less excited about the pass catching options for the Washington football team going forward. I mean, maybe you're more excited as a football team fan. Heineke, he didn't look bad. He can run the ball. Maybe it does move the offense efficiently. So, but from a fantasy perspective, it's not good news.
Do we have word on whether Ryan Fitzpatrick is injured? Like what the injury is?
They said that actually right before we went live. They said that the Washington football team fears it is a serious injury, so they're expecting him to be out for some time.
So do you guys think maybe Cam could be going to Washington? Or you think they'll stick with Heineke?
So I had heard positive things out of like camp and beat reporters about Heineke. Like even before this happened, there was rumors going around. And Jay, I know you brought it up multiple times. There was a real chance Heineke was going to take over at some point early in the season anyways, that Fitzpatrick was just a placeholder. So I think the team was already comfortable with Heineke as their starter. And so they are most likely just going to continue down that path. But I guess
think it all
Cam's
depends
out there
on
the
how
market.
long Fitzpatrick is out. I think if Fitzpatrick is just going to miss a few games, then I think they'll stick with Heineke and not worry about Cam. But if it's a season-ending injury, I could see them bringing in Cam as the backup. And, Heineke looked decent last year at times. I think he's like Alex Smith last year, just a game manager. The offense got a little bit of life when he came in today. From a fantasy perspective, I think you definitely have to downgrade the offense. But from a real life football perspective, I think they'll be just fine. As good as this defense is, I think they'll be fine with him in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and you look at these receiving options with Heineke in there. McLaurin did
good.
But he did everything he could
Bob.
with what he was given. So McLaurin still looked good out there. 4 receptions off 4 targets for 62 yards. with the way that offense was moving, with Fitzpatrick going down, I'm not sure how much more you can ask from him. I definitely would downgrade him a bit in my mind with Fitzpatrick out, but the talent's still there, and I think he'll still be the number one receiver on that team. John Luke, are you concerned about Terry McLaurin with Heineke taking over?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't really show up until the later part of the game. And even if, I believe Heineke did the best that he could with what he had, but also the volume just wasn't quite there. And, you could say he wasn't quite prepared, just get thrust into this game, but I would be concerned going forward a little bit. I want to see how this situation plays out. If Heineke is the starter next week, I'm going to be watching that very closely. What is the volume looking like? How much are they passing this offense? How much is this offense moving? Because that's going to be attached to how Terry McLaurin does in fantasy this year.
Yeah. Do you guys think there's anybody on this team that benefits from Heineke taking over? Do you think it's a net loss? Do any of the rushing options improve because Heineke's taking over?
Maybe Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Even though, he didn't look that good, Antonio Gibson, it shows that they want him to be the workout horse. He got 20 carries. If he would have got a touchdown, everybody would be saying how good of a day Gibson had.
Yes.
So I think it's a good sign for him. And Logan Thomas, he got a touchdown from him. I could see him leaning on Logan Thomas a little bit more.
Yeah. And look at the targets as well. Like we had talked about it this offseason, Gibson may be stepping up in the receiving game a bit, McKissick taking a step back. Well, right here, Antonio Gibson with 5 targets, 3 receptions in the first game. J.D. McKissick with 1 target, 0 receptions. It looks like they are starting to trust Antonio Gibson a bit more to be out there on those passing down situations. I agree with you guys. This is not necessarily a positive for Gibson that Heineke's taking over, but I think this game as a whole, even though it wasn't like a slam dunk performance from Gibson, is a positive indicator for him this season.
I agree.
Yep, absolutely.
Marty in here saying Thomas maybe benefits. Thomas might benefit.
I think the way that you could justify that is that, Fitzpatrick is known for just hauling it down the field, just slinging it down the field. And so if Heineke, doesn't do that as much, then those shorter range targets are going to probably benefit from Heineke being in.
I think you just saw what I just saw, Simon.
Simon is gone.
INT. Yeah. Simon is dead.
No.
Tell us what happened, Simon. Talk through your pain.
I want Simon to say it. Yeah.
Go ahead, Simon. What just happened?
Chiefs win.
Yep. It's not over. Yeah, it's over.
That was not as satisfying as I thought it would be. That was kind of
I was trying to sap
one thing
of you guys
on this side of the ball I want to bring up real fast is J.D. McKissick. I think in regard to Antonio Gibson, getting that workload going forward, J.D. McKissick didn't do anything. 1 attempt for 8 yards, 1 reception, 1 target, 0 yard. Not impressive. I think this is Antonio Gibson's backfield.
Yep.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Clear. Yep.
Okay,
and
guys, you ready to move on?
One other thing.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
One other thing. Jared Cook, 9 targets, 5 catches, 56 yards. That's promising for the 35, 36-year-old Jared Cook that a lot of people just left for dead. So he could be a back-end tight end 1. I think he's that old. I might be wrong. I might be too old on that. He might be like 34.
I think he's actually 85 years old. Something
85?
Yeah. 2 things with Austin Eckler. 1, he got the goal line work, which a lot of people were concerned about. He got the touchdown there.
Mm-hmm.
Austin Eckler didn't have a single target.
Ugh.
That was very surprising. I don't think that's going to continue, but that's just something noteworthy from this game.
You're right. Probably has something to do with the injury, maybe, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I expect Eckler to be targeted heavily this season. It is a weird game outside of that, but I'm not changing that expectation outside of that. Andre saying Gibson fumbled twice, though. Any concerns?
No. If Peyton Barber was there, you might be concerned they might use Peyton Barber at the red zone. But other than that McKissick isn't going to be the guy that's going to take that work away from him. Patterson might get a little bit of work, but I'm not concerned about Gibby at all.
Patterson's a free agent, isn't he? Or undrafted free agent?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. I think Jay makes a great point is who are they going to replace him with? I think this happens, and only one of them was lost. So hopefully he just gets that under control. And this isn't like a normal every game thing.
Yeah, if it becomes a pattern, I would get concerned. We saw it a couple seasons ago with Chris Carson, and it affected when he was getting on the field. He couldn't keep the ball in his hands. If this is likely just a bad game on that front from a fumbles perspective, keep an eye on it. If it happens again next week, then it might be something we need to talk about further. But for now, I'm just looking at it as a fluke. The next game we're talking about, guys, the Seattle Seahawks versus the Indianapolis Colts. Carson Wentz, Colts debut. The final score 28-16 with the Seahawks winning it.
Ooh-wee.
Well, here's one of Tyler Lockett's 3 good games on the season.
Oh my God, Tyler Lockett.
Some of those catches,
4 catches,
unbelievable.
100 yards and 2
touchdown?
touchdowns.
Yeah,
that is a Tyler Lockett line if I've ever seen it.
yes.
It absolutely is. And thank God DK Metcalf finally did something, right, guys?
Yes, yeah. At halftime, it was a little scary.
Yeah.
If you would have shown me that Tyler Lockett line without the player name, I would have had a 1 and 3. It either would have been Will Fuller, Sammy Watkins week 1, or Tyler Lockett, and I don't think it could have been anybody else besides those 3 players. And that wasn't even the most surprising receiver on the field today. There was another player I wanted to talk about. I thought we were going to go there first, but we can talk about Tyler Lockett first real quick. Do you guys think Tyler Lockett is the one on this team after today? Or DK Metcalf and Tyler both ended with 5 targets. Which one of these guys do you want to have in your starting lineup going forward? Is it still DK?
Yeah, it's DK for me.
Tyler Lockett's the
Tyler Lockett does
1B.
this.
He's the 1B on this offense. I'm pretty close on them, but it's DK above Tyler. It's 1A, 1B kind of situation.
I will say I would be careful about, like, we joke about the Tyler Lockett. This is, one of his 4 games because I've been off Tyler Lockett all off season because of his inconsistency. I don't expect him to get 2 touchdowns every game, but he's talented. He's very talented, and he just got a huge contract. And I would be fine, playing him as my wide receiver 2, wide receiver. I don't know if I would be super comfortable using my wide receiver 1, but my wide receiver 2 going forward.
Well, Jay made a good point. He was practically free all offseason. So I don't have DK anywhere, but I do have Tyler Lockett in a couple places.
He's going in like the 6th round, 7th round of most drafts.
Give me that all day long. Yeah, he's going to be inconsistent, but if you could get him as your wide receiver 3, and he's definitely going to put up these huge games. He's going to put up wide receiver 2 numbers, So for me, I would rather have DK, but at cost, I have a lot more Lockett.
Yep, I agree with you guys there 100%. On the other side, though, for Indianapolis, we had Zach Pascal he had 4 receptions for 2 touchdowns, 43 yards. Was this a fluke? Was this a flame in the pan? Or is Pascal going to be someone we need to watch out for the rest of the season?
I believe JL, quote me if I'm wrong here, but I think he said that Pascal is the dynasty wide receiver 1. JL, do you have a comment on that?
I did say that earlier. Yes.
He did say that. Definitely no tongue in cheek.
Definitely no sarcasm there. Now, Zach Pascal did look good. He was making some tough catches, but I don't know that you can rely on him going forward. I mean, 4 receptions, 2 touchdowns. The 2 touchdowns is just not sustainable. He's not going to do that every game. Take away those 2 touchdowns. And he doesn't have many fantasy points. So
I think he could get 34 touchdowns this year. Easily.
He could easily get 34 touchdowns. In which case he'd be wide receiver 1.
Yeah. No, I think
the wide receiver 1 on this team.
Yeah, no, I think he'll be a part of this offense. Will you know when to start him in fantasy? No, but is he worth a pickup in a deeper league where you need some wide receiver depth? Yeah, he is.
The only players that got more targets than him on this team were running backs. He was the number 1 most targeted wide receiver on this team. Nyheim Hines and Jonathan Taylor out-targeted him, but he was the wide receiver that was targeted the most. That being said, Pittman had comparable targets, 4 targets, 3 receptions. But I think both of these players, Pascal and Pittman, are going to be involved week to week. And again, like we said about Amendola, you can flex Pascal no problem, I think, most weeks. I think that's a player you can confidently throw in your lineup as a flex option if needed. Not someone I'm hyped to start every single week, though.
Yeah, I think the wide receiver 1 on this team is Hines, honestly. He got the most targets on this team. I think they just gave him a big contract.
Yeah.
I think that, Hines is somebody that you can plug in as your RB2 and get solid production. And I think it's really a good outlook for Jonathan Taylor that he also got 7 targets. So I think it's stock up on both of those guys.
Yeah, Josh, you were talking a bit about Jonathan Taylor's targets before we hopped on the stream there. Do you expect this kind of target volume to continue for both Hines and Taylor?
I mean, Jay was just saying it. It's part of the Carson Wentz effect. We've seen it. He likes to, I think he's gonna probably throw it to his tight ends and running backs a lot. I think we're going to see a lot of mix mash of wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs throughout the year, which tells me maybe there's not going to be too many reliable assets in the pass catching area for this team. I think, Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines are going to be the most reliable people on the Colts going forward for fantasy.
Man, it brings so much joy to my heart to see Hines getting this much volume this year again. He's one of my favorite players to watch, probably because
guys,
I have so many.
Got some news here. Jerry Jeudy projected to be out 6 to 8 weeks minimum with high ankle sprain.
Wow. So I mean, honestly, the way I see that as a win, because it was a nasty injury. It looked really bad. I thought it was broken for sure. So
me too. I literally said that. I was like, if he walks away with only ligament damage, then that's a good thing for Jerry Jeudy.
Now, high ankle sprain. Go ahead, Jay.
Go ahead, Jay. Yeah, I was gonna say high ankle sprain. He'll be back on the field, but we saw it with Saquon Barkley. We see it all the time. Even though guys are able to get back on the field, Michael Thomas last year, they really struggled to get back to form 4, 5, 6 weeks after they're able to actually start playing. So, from a redraft perspective, this is really the whole fantasy regular season for Jeudy, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's sort of wrongly named, I guess. High ankle sprain sounds less severe than it is. I forget, there was one of the networks did like a little thing before the games last year where they did like a graphic and described what the actual injury is, and it's not pretty. You do have torn ligaments, and so it's not, like Jay said, it's not easy to come back from. It's not like a normal ankle sprain.
No,
it is tough.
I sprained my ankle. It hurts a lot.
It does.
Guys, before we move on to our next game, we had one more comment from Marty I thought was worth bringing up. When we were talking about Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, the backs there for Seattle, they do have a new OC this year, which we were expecting to make some decent changes to that offense, that it wasn't going to be the same offense we were seeing. So definitely something to monitor with the way Lockett and Metcalf were used this week. Let's see if this new OC wants to continue using them in that same way.
Speaking of which, he was, I believe he was the tight end coach for Gerald Everett in Los Angeles. So you said it earlier today, Simon. Gerald Everett's somebody who, if you were fading tight end, I think he's a good play. Somebody that, if he's on your waiver wire, I think he's worthy of a pickup. Just in case.
I agree.
We
got a touchdown.
Like his tight ends in the past. He's got the touchdown, so he's going to be a tight end one. He's got that touchdown. So,
simple.
Go ahead.
I was going to say the simple solution at tight end was just to draft Travis Kelsey. Then you didn't even have to worry about Gerald Everett.
We'll get to it.
Yeah, that's up next. Jay, what were you going to say?
I will. Last thing I'll bring up in this game is the Seattle rushing. Chris Carson didn't have a particularly spectacular game. I think he had, what was it?
If I can go back,
10 points and around 10 points in half PPR. Carson. And I think he also had a fumble.
Yeah, he had 16 rushes, 91 yards, 3 receptions, 26 yards, and a fumble.
Yeah, and so I'm not worried about it. He got no touchdowns this week. That'll change. And I believe Rashad Penny also re-aggravated his leg injury. And so there's really it's like Antonio Gibson. There's no real competition. I wouldn't be too worried about Carson. 10 points is also respectable, so you're probably not too worried.
It's fine. It's fine to throw points in your likely RB2 spot. You're totally okay with that. It's not going to win you a week, but it's not going to lose it as either. And Brian, a man after my own heart, said, Kelsey, just get him. Amen. Yep, completely agree over there. Get him, Jeff. The next video we are talking about, and I said video, but I meant game, is the 49ers versus, I guess it's kind of like a video, right? It's a couple-hour video that we're watching.
Yeah. So
let's discuss this film that we all watched earlier, the 49ers versus the Lions. We already had some people coming in here asking us about some, I forget what, Debo and Ayuk. So I think we should go ahead and start there. Ayuk, this says exactly what needs to be said. His name's not on here on the San Francisco receiving chart. There is no Ayuk present.
And he did play. Just disclaimer, he did play today.
7 punt return yards. 7 punt return yards is what Ayuk amassed this week.
Come on, Ayuk. I know for me, I was we talked about this a bit at the beginning. I was concerned about this receiving core as a whole, just not sure how it was going to be distributed, but I would have never expected a game with 12 targets for Debo and 0 for Ayuk. I didn't think that was in the range of outcomes for week 1 here. Are you guys as surprised about this as I am?
I am, but Shanahan came out after the game and was talking about Ayuk's hamstring issue from the preseason that just wasn't listed on the injury report. And so that's why I think it hit, it blindsided us all. We weren't expecting it, but that also makes me feel a little better. Like the world makes sense again, because it didn't make sense to me why that would be so lopsided, why Ayuk would not be targeted at all after, being one of the most efficient players, receivers last year. And having very good separation last year. I was surprised to not see that this game. So it makes sense. Those soft tissue issues can be really annoying for receivers.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I mean, I did a video breaking it down a little bit, and like I believe it was the top 6 performances, the top 6 weeks that Ayuk had last year. One of them George Kittle played in, missed half the game. One of them Debo played in. So Debo and George Kittle were never on the field at the same time while Ayuk was on the field and had top tier. So
you're saying they're the same person because you've never seen them.
Exactly. And that's why we didn't see him put up any stats today.
That's why you're tuned in right now to uncover the real mysteries of the NFL.
The hard-hitting news. But
right here on FanDuel.
Debo killed it, guys. Debo looked fantastic. He did.
Debo.
Yeah, I have a lot of Debo. I do have Ayuk in a couple places, but it was a similar situation for me with DK and Locket that Debo was practically free because everybody was all over Ayuk. Everybody just forgot how good Debo was 2 years ago. So I don't think Ayuk is, obviously not going to have any targets in most games, but I do think that this is an offense that has a lot of options. So it's going to be frustrating. I wouldn't be surprised that you have a game that Ayuk goes off and Debo and Kittle don't do much. And I think it's just going to be hard to go on a week-to-week basis and see who's who.
I think, but I disagree a little bit. I think both will be pretty relevant. This offense looked pretty good. They were moving the ball. I think as long as Ayuk can get healthy, then he'll return to his dominant status. And I think Debo will also be relevant. He looked great today.
Yeah, I don't think
Trey Lance out there.
Yeah.
That was the other thing I was going to say. I don't think we can ignore what Debo did today and just say when Ayuk's healthy, he's going to take back over. Debo didn't just step in for an injured player. He had 189 receiving yards and a touchdown. Like Debo had himself a game. Now, Jail, the only reason I would disagree with you there, it's what Jay said. We are already seeing Lance coming in. It is just on like specialty plays. They're not playing him. He's not coming in like sustaining entire drives.
Yeah, the Lamar.
Exactly.
Yeah, Lamar's from
But this could hint at Lance taking over sooner rather than later. And if that's the case, I don't think Lance can support Kittle, Debo, and Ayuk. And I'm not sure which one of those players is going to be. Kittle will be very relevant still. I'm not sure which one of Debo and Ayuk will be his primary pass catching target whenever he does eventually take over, which I think is go ahead. I was just going to say, I think it's going to happen. It's going to happen this season. Lance is taking over. They already feel comfortable putting him in the game. He's going to take over at some point this season in my mind.
Well, let me ask you guys this too: with Mostert getting hurt and Sermon being inactive, if they have one of those guys in, do you think that they're going to throw the ball this much, or do you think they would run the ball more?
Well, I mean, if Mostert's inactive,
no. If Mostert didn't get hurt, basically, if Mostert was still in there, would they still?
Yeah.
Would this been as pass heavy of a game?
They ran it 19 times for 104 yards with Elijah Mitchell, so they ran it. I mean, I think they just had a good game.
Not quite as many for as much for San Francisco. They do even more than that generally. Is what I'm saying.
Jimmy Garoppolo only had 25 pass attempts actually. So I mean, I think Debo just proved how good he actually is. And I think he's proven it in the past. It's just he had an injury-riddled season the year before that. He had a very good rookie season that a lot of people forget about. And when he was healthy last year, he was very good. So I think just people want to write off Debo because how bad the injuries have been in the past. But I'm ready to almost move Debo ahead of Ayuk in my rankings.
Wide receiver 1.
Wide receiver
Pascal,
1 for Dynasty.
Debo also 1.
Also 1, yes.
Yeah. 1A and 1A. They're both 1A. Anthony said, I said all offseason, why draft Ayuk in the 5th when you can take Debo in the 8th? For some reason, Anthony, the first time I read that, I took the thes out in my head and read it in a Russian accent. Like that was how I thought you typed it. But that is not how you typed it. There was no Russian accent present
I thought you were going to say take out words and read it like Kevin Malone, but
Guys, on the Detroit side of this, we have been entirely focused on the San Francisco side. So Jared Goff making his Detroit Lions debut at quarterback. And while his fantasy score ended up pretty damn good, like a good starting quarterback, we were talking before the stream, he did not look as good as his fantasy score does. Josh, you are smiling and shaking your head down there. What did you see from Jared Goff today? Something encouraging or just some garbage time?
Honestly, it was something Jay said when we were watching the game together. He's like, yeah, Simon, garbage points count. Remember that.
Exactly.
Right? And I think that's just a perfect comment because, the Lions were down, and I think there's a lot of prevent defense happening, and the Lions almost came back. Debo Samuel, we were just talking about him. He fumbled at the very end of the game and gave the Lions a chance to come back in this game. So Jared Goff had a lot of soft defense to play against, but, he looked fine. He made some bad. I mean, he's Jared Goff, and the Lions are not winning this season. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. Let's be honest, guys. But I think what we can look at is TJ Hawkinson. Super excited for DeAndre Swift. Super excited for Jamal Williams. You can put them into your flex now. Like, they've got weapons outside of the receivers, the wide receivers, that we can be really excited about, I think.
I think Goff he averaged 5.9 yards per pass attempt, which is not very good.
That's low.
It's very low. I think he had a pick six as well. I think that this defense, the Detroit defense, is just going to end up like just forcing him into these negative game strips where he's going to be forced to pass. And he seemed, like Josh said, fine. He just seemed fine. He was targeting Hawkinson and hitting him a lot most of the time. So, and making things happen. So I don't know if I'm like super excited about Goff himself as a fantasy asset, but some of these skilled position players I am.
So guys, real fast, just a little bit of news. Josh Jacobs has been downgraded to questionable for an illness tomorrow night against the Ravens.
Yep.
Just wanted to let you boys know.
Good
so
call,
if you guys need a start, Tyson Williams is already off the waiver wire, and Kenyon Drake was probably drafted, so you might just be out of luck. You can probably find someone to start.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Good luck. Yeah.
Anthony coming in saying his wife has a Russian accent, so maybe it's rubbing off. Yeah, 100%.
Does your wife have a Russian accent? That's interesting.
Rubbing off when you're typing. Cool. And Jay was saying there was all kinds of hate to Swift, not naming names. Dude balled and wasn't even named the starter. I will give credit to Jay Wall as Swift's value dipped as we approached the beginning of the season. Injury worries, Jamal Williams. Jay Wall stayed firm that Swift was the guy. He believed in the talent. Yeah. And you know what?
I traded for him in our league, Simon. I don't know who I got him off of, but I did get up Nick Chubb. So I'm not saying I got a steal.
I forget how that whole trade went, but there was a Nick Chubb.
I got DeAndre Swift plus for Nick Chubb, pretty much.
I think it was Terrace Marshall.
It was a second round pick in Terrace Marshall, 2023 second.
Okay.
Yep. I am on a championship winning team in there, I think. So I was just trying to upgrade the best I could for this season. But no, guys, TJ Hawkinson, real deal. We talked about it a bit, but the other name I wanted to talk about, there's a receiver. There is one receiver for the Lions that I think is worth bringing up, and that's Quintez Cephas. He had the touchdown, but take that away, he still had 7 targets this game on top of the touchdown. Like, he is going to be involved as a receiver. I know, it was bad. That's why I'm bringing him up. It isn't immediately obvious that we should be talking about Quintez Cephas.
Oh, no, I think we should. Yeah,
that's a name that is. I think he's going to be a receiver that's continuously involved in this offense. Jared Goff looked his way 7 times this game. That's not insignificant. The most targets out of any receiver on this team. Others did a little bit more with what they were targeted with, but I think Cephas is a name to watch going forward. He might be worth picking up and putting on the end of your bench just to see what he looks like in the coming weeks.
Like you said, that this defense is going to put this team in a lot of negative game scripts where they're going to have to throw the ball a ton. And as I was saying, garbage time counts. And, look at Blake Bortles from a few years ago, that he wasn't good on paper, but in fantasy, he was gold. He was that guy where, like, you go into the fourth quarter with -2 points and somehow wind up with 20 fantasy points because he had 2 or 3 touchdowns in the last 5 minutes just because they were playing prevent. So, yeah, and it's not going to continue to. I don't. We have a cursed Blake Bortles jersey in my home league, and it's actually sitting in my closet downstairs. So It's I don't want to talk about it. But, it's garbage time points count, and it's not just always going to go through Hawkinson, the running backs. There are going to be some wide receivers that are involved, and like you said, I think Cephas could be that guy.
I do have a dissenting opinion here. So
Ooh,
I think the touchdown is really buoying Quintez Cephas's value here, because if you look at like Trinity Benson, who's got a pretty similar stat line, one less target, 7 more yards on and the same number of receptions. Like, is anybody who have Trinity Benson, are they? I'm assuming they didn't start him, but would they be happy, or like, is that the same sort of value that you see? I
actually have Trinity Benson as my wide receiver 1 in Dynasty.
That's good. That's fair.
So yeah, I was in on him.
So the fact is that Quintez Cephas did get the touchdown, and that means something, right? That's an end zone target. That's a touchdown. That means something, and that touchdown looked good. And he was kind of being hyped up as like the only returning receiver for this team. So if there's a receiver that I want to own on the Titans in redraft right now, it is absolutely Quintez Cephas. But I don't know if that means that the Lions. Sorry, I don't know if that means I actually really want him on my team. But if there is a wide receiver I want, it's absolutely him.
And Jail, the only counterpoint I add to that, you're 100% right with the stat line. Very similar, but there was preseason momentum for Quintez. This isn't coming out of nowhere. Know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not just comparing one game and then drawing conclusions for the rest of the season. It's what I thought about Quintez Cephas in this offense, and then what we saw today is what's giving me hope that maybe he will be involved and he's worth a pickup. But you're 100% right. Watch this offense. You could pick up Quintez Cephas and then realize maybe Benson is going to be more involved with this Lions offense. But if I had to guess, if I had to bet, it would be my money would be on Quintez Cephas over Trinity Benson or Amon-Ra St. Brown. We got some questions in here. No name said, can we talk Ayuk? We already talked about him quite a bit, but we will recap what we said for you right here. While it is concerning, we are concerned about that receiving core as a whole, how Ayuk's going to be used with Kittle and Debo on the field. Jail pointed out that he was still hampered by that hamstring injury. Shanahan said it in the post-game press conference. And so that's likely why we saw him completely absent. That's not to say Debo isn't the one on this team. I'm just saying don't expect this all season. Ayuk was still hurt out there on the field. Anything to add, guys?
No, I think they did not put him on the field very much this game for that exact reason. So I think you got to temper don't worry too much about this game.
I think I'm moving Debo ahead of Ayuk, though, in my personal fantasy rankings for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Barely, but like it's 1A, 1B kind of situation for me now.
Hey Josh, you like that comment that our guy's saying there in the chat?
It is a good segue because that is the next game we are talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. Welcome in, JB Chonos. Glad to have you here. And let's just launch right off. And we're going to start with the biggest Mixon fan on this stream. Josh, just express some of that excitement real quick. You don't even have to say
you let me have that over Jay? I don't know. I think it's pretty close.
You're talking about me because
I actually thought you were going to go to Jay. I was a Mixon fan last season. I remember talking this about with Simon last season as well. So it goes on. And last season, we all know how that went. But,
I will share that title.
Who named him as a must start this week?
JL is the only one that said he was a must start. Actually, is correct. Anyway, Mixon looked great. He was on the field all the time. He got, I mean, Samaje Perine got 8 carries for 33 yards, 1 target, but Joe Mixon, 4 targets. We love to see that. I think he's got a great pass catching skill set and 29 attempts for 127 yards and 1 touchdown. It wasn't like they were winning all game and just trying to run out the game clock either. This was a competitive game. It did go to overtime, which gave him a little bit more carries, but Joe Mixon's the guy going for it if he stays healthy. Running back, a top 10 running back, easy.
I will say I'm a huge Mixon fan, and you guys know I've been hyping up Mixon all off season. But the reason that Mixon got this many carries is there was a play about, I think it was halfway through the second quarter, and we were watching the games, and I said, "Oh, Joe Burrow's down." After he went down and limped off the field, they got extremely conservative with their play calling, and they ran the ball a ton. So I do still think that Mixon is what we said he was all offseason. I think if he's able to stay healthy, he's going to be the bell cow and he's going to get a ton of work. But I don't think he's going to have this many carries that he did in this game as the season progresses, because they started off very conservative. And then when that play happened, they went back to being conservative. And then that's when the game got close again.
So you're saying more catches for Joe Mixon going forward? Okay, great.
I'll go with that. Not as many carries.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely.
He's gonna have a good
It's
season.
not
Joe
going to be.
Mixon.
Yeah,
Joe
I'm
Mixon,
all
wide
on the Joe Mixon
one
train.
in Dynasty.
Yes, Joe Mixon.
He's the number one wide receiver in Dynasty. Yeah, Joe
Yep.
Mixon. Pascal, who was the other one? Trinity Benson, Debo Samuel, and Joe Mixon, number one wide receiver. Number one wide receiver in Dynasty fantasy football.
They're
Guys,
1A, 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 and 1A.
Yeah, 100%.
Can't distinguish.
Were there any other takeaways from this game you wanted to get to before we moved on to our Jets-Panthers game?
Yeah, look at that guy,
Adam Thielen.
Jamar Chase.
Jamar and T. Higgins.
Yeah, both
Yes,
of them.
and T. Higgins missed some time. He went off on a. People were nervous about T. Higgins for a second. It looks like everything's fine though, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he's going to be fine. But just, I think all the concerns about Jamar Chase this offseason, with he can't. He's got all these drops and he can't see the ball because he doesn't have the white stripes because of the NCAA ball. Jamar Chase is a stud. He's going to be absolutely fine. He showed the chemistry that he had with Joe Burrow at LSU. He's going to be A-okay.
Yeah.
Yep, completely agree.
He can't hold the NFL football. Haven't you heard? The seven targets, 5 receptions, 101 yards, just can't hold that football. No, I agree. It's going to be fine. And Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are going to find success this season.
I heard it caught every pass with his belly button.
Nitty gritty saying Thielen is the red zone king. Man, we talked about this for a while earlier today. We were saying a lot of us were off Thielen because touchdowns are fluky. And I still believe touchdowns are fluky, but Thielen's showing us it can fall his way. He is a monster in the red zone, and he showed that again today with those 2 touchdowns.
And targets aren't fluky. That's the one thing.
That's not fluky.
He didn't survive on touchdowns. I know we were talking about that. That is, I agree. That's I think where he's going to make his living. But take away the touchdowns, still a good game.
So better than Justin Jefferson, even without the touch.
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry, Scott.
Thielen's just a good receiver, guys. We underestimated him again. We did it.
He has been
Adam Thielen, Dynasty wide receiver 1.
God dang.
Justin Jefferson, quarterback, Dynasty quarterback 1.
No, wide receiver.
He had a pass for 11 yards. It looked good.
Oh yeah.
Andre,
you guys worried about Justin Jefferson? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No.
You guys worried about Justin Jefferson?
Not at all.
No.
I think it's just one of those games.
They
were both wide receiver 1s last year. They're going to have to throw the ball a lot. The defense did play better, but they're still not that good of a defense. Kirk Cousins is able to, I think he's a good QB2 for Superflex leagues. I think he's able to get both of these guys the ball, and if they're getting close to 10 targets a game, I think they'll both be absolutely fine.
Yep, tend to agree with you there. If you were expecting what we got from Jefferson last year, you might be disappointed, but that was a freakish season. Jefferson's going to be just fine, but if your expectations are a repeat of last year, that might be difficult to replicate no matter what's happening. Thielen or no Thielen being involved in this offense.
Yep.
Okay. Up next, guys, we're talking about the Jets and the Panthers. If I can find that up here, it is somewhere. There we go.
Cincinnati, Minnesota. That was a great game, by the way. Overtime. Enjoyed watching that one. Red zone is such a great game.
And Burrow came up with a clutch pass in overtime to set him up for that game-winning field goal. It was nice to see Joe Burrow out there doing that after the devastating injury.
In this game, guys, we had a rookie quarterback going against what might as well be a rookie quarterback after escaping from the Adam Gase system. We had Zack Wilson versus Sam Darnold. What'd you guys think out of that quarterback battle? Were you impressed, not impressed by these quarterbacks on their new teams?
So we talked about it earlier, and I saw one pass from Zack Wilson. I was like, man, he looks pretty good. And then Josh was like, you haven't watched much of this game yet, have you? Yeah, I didn't, and it was bad. Zack Wilson he's going to have some growing pains, but the one thing I will say is if you look at that stat line, just like we were talking about earlier, garbage time points count. So I think Zack Wilson, from a fantasy perspective, I think he'll be perfectly fine as a QB2. He's only going to get better. And Corey Davis looked phenomenal.
Corey Davis.
Shout out.
Sam Darnold, on the other hand, I think looked good, by the way.
I think he looked good too.
In the FanDuel lineup?
I did. And we had a contest going between the four of us this week, and Corey Davis was in my FanDuel lineup to dunk on all of you fools.
Yeah. Except for in mine, Brandon Ayuk.
I think Josh won that though, right? I was winning all
did
day,
I?
and then I'm assuming because we both
Josh
had
did win. I just
Denver, and
checked.
then
Let's go.
yeah. So
I'm,
Kelsey,
where are my guys, Nathaniel, and who's the other guy? We need to start this group.
Go.
I need
Yes,
emotional support.
We did have a question about the Bengals game. What happened to Boyd? Anthony has an answer. Boyd dead. That's what he says. But Josh, you looked like you were about to say something. Do you think this was this is how the offense is going to move now with Chase and Higgins, or do you think this was game script? Do you think Boyd just didn't get the targets this week?
Boyd's going to have good games going forward, but Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are the leaders for this offense, I think, going forward. Boyd's a great slot receiver, which, again, he's going to lead to games with a lot of catches, but I'm a little nervous. I'm more nervous for Boyd now after this game than I was going into the season, and I was already a little nervous for him.
I'm not as worried. I think it wasn't a great game. He had four targets on 3 receptions of 4 targets for 32 yards, and he traditionally plays in the slot, and I just think that it wasn't his game. I do expect him to get a little bit more involved in week 2.
Yep, I agree with you. I don't know what else to add there, guys. I was probably the highest on Boyd this offseason. And this, while it does raise some concerns, I fully expect him to stay involved in this offense. He fills a role that Higgins and Chase don't. I think his work there is safe. This game just didn't go in his favor.
and they only threw the ball 27 times.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't a heavy passing game for them. We had a lot of questions about the New York Jets rushing game going into this, and it turns out the answer was none of
The
them.
Jets have a rushing game.
Yeah,
they don't have a
answer
rushing
was what running back? Tevin Coleman, 9 carries for 24 yards. Ty Johnson, 4 for 15. Michael Carter, 4 for 6.
Ew.
Yeah, truly vile. But then on the other side, we were reminded, man, is Christian McCaffrey good at football?
Oh, yeah,
so
real
good.
good. I hope you started
So
him.
good at football. Yeah, I hope you started him. If you benched him, man, I understand why you did.
I
but,
benched him for
Dynasty wide
Tevin
receiver
Coleman.
Christian McCaffrey.
You look good. Corey
Yeah,
Davis,
no touchdown for Christian McCaffrey, and still
Almost 30 points.
the number 1 fantasy running back. Still, like, I mean, he's a beast.
Yep.
He's a beast.
In case you forgot.
Yeah, I mean, he put up a good line just as a receiver. Like, if he was a wide receiver, that would have been perfectly acceptable. You would have been hyped with 9 receptions, 8.9 yards. In PPR, what is that? 17.9 PPR points just off of his receiving work. Like, you're already happy, and then add the almost 100 rushing yards on top of that. Like, man, that guy's a monster. Keep on starting Christian McCaffrey. Jimmy has a question for us. Does Elijah Moore have any value in fantasy? Josh, shaking your head down there. What do you think?
Not in redraft. I'm cutting him everywhere I have him. Sorry, Elijah Moore. In Dynasty, he has a lot of value still, but I'm out on Elijah Moore, especially now that I've seen this offense run. It is Corey Davis's offense as a wide receiver. I know Elijah Moore plays a different role, more of a slot guy, but I'm out this season.
John Luke?
I'm not fully out. He got 4 targets. He's still a rookie wide receiver, and we got to keep that in mind that, like, it's his very first NFL game. It's Zack Wilson's very first NFL game. We don't know how their rapport is going to play out or how he's going to factor into this offense. And I wouldn't personally make a decision on the season just based off the first game. But I agree with Josh in the sense that if you're, it's week 1, so waiver wire is going to be important. And if there's someone who's more enticing on the waiver wire, I think Elijah Moore could be a cut candidate because he's probably not going to be like a Justin Jefferson last year.
And to that point real fast, that's exactly what I wanted to say is that I was drafting him as one of my late round picks, just wanting to see how it panned out. And
Right.
I didn't like what I saw. So exactly. If there's no one to pick up, if you just are trying to make moves, then don't do it. But if there's someone worth picking up on the waiver wire, Elijah Moore is a cut for me.
Yeah, I'm cutting him as well. Dale, I agree with everything you said, but in redraft, that's enough for me to cut him. I'll let him go, and then if we start seeing signs of life from this team, you could honestly probably pick him back up in 3 weeks. I don't expect it to change quickly. I don't expect him to all of a sudden start breaking out in these games, though we could see some progression by the end of the season.
And
Anthony wants to know, who would you rather
be coming back? Oh, they're good.
James,
good.
Yeah.
That's a great point, Jay.
Yeah, Jamison Crowder's going to be back too. So if he was going to be involved in this offense, you would have thought it would have been this week with Jamison Crowder out because of COVID. So I agree with what you guys are saying, that I'm not looking to cut him just because, but I have no qualms with dropping him if there's somebody you want to pick up.
So while I pull up the next game, one by one, you guys go through here. Tyler Boyd or Elijah Moore, who would you rather roster right now? I think I know the answer for everyone, but let's just make sure.
Boyd.
Boyd. Well, you
Trace
didn't even give me enough time. I agree with you, though. It's Boyd, and it's not close.
Okay, hold on. You mean help you out, Boyd? Does that help you out, Simon?
And we're good.
now in a dynasty league, that would be a question that we don't have to get into right now. But
it's a good question. It's a good question.
Yeah,
it is a good question. So, Arizona Cardinals versus the Tennessee Titans. This was a great game and a horrible game for fantasy football. There were some players that made you so happy today. DeAndre Hopkins, Kyler Murray. Man, did they look good. Christian Kirk, if you put him in your FanDuel lineups, he was a discount, came down with 2 touchdowns.
And James Conner had 16 carries. You had to be happy, right? You had to be. You had to. Oh, wait, only 53 yards and no catches.
It's just DeAndre Hopkins is pretty good. Would you guys say that he's pretty good?
All day you were saying how good he is.
He looked good. He passed the eye test. When he got the carries, he actually looked good with them. He just didn't turn it into fantasy production. Yes, James Conner. Yeah. He just didn't turn it into fantasy production.
Yeah. Guys, I was going to say, we all know Kyler Murray's great. We all know DeAndre Hopkins is great. The James Conner and Christian Kirk are the interesting players from Arizona for me. Do you think Christian Kirk, I know we can't expect 2 touchdowns every week, but he had 5 receptions for 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. Is he going to continue being a piece in this offense? I was personally expecting AJ Green to kind of fill that number 2 receiver role, but it looks like Kirk might be that guy.
Yeah, I think Kirk is, well, they're different receivers. You know, AJ Green's more like DeAndre Hopkins and the type of receiver he is. But yeah, Christian Kirk, we've known is talented. He just hasn't been super consistent since dealt with some injuries. But last year, you know, he had a pretty consistent run. I was definitely worried coming into the season, but it's nice seeing him get as many targets as he did. And I think he could definitely compete for that wide receiver 2 position on this team.
And Christian Kirk, just to put into some context for FanDuel, if you did put him in your lineup, he returned 4.13x value. That is one of the best receiver values of the day on FanDuel. So,
well, the thing you got to look at too,
anyone who put him in there.
Rondale Moore got the same amount of targets as Christian Kirk.
Yes,
Kirk just got
and they play in the same part of the field, Jay.
They do, yes.
So I think that both are going to be viable flex plays every week, and it's basically going to be who gets the touchdowns.
Yeah, you might see some flip-flopping, some snip, snap.
Flip that.
Anthony's saying, why watch football on Sunday? Just catch the FYF Sunday review. It's kind of like
we
just need to pick a different color.
Can you imagine if this was all people had to go off of? Like, they didn't watch any of the game. They just had our interpretation of the games to go off of.
Why are there 75 different dynasty wide receiver ones?
I don't understand. I can't even put him in my wide receiver.
Talking about that quarterback number 1, JL was kind of saying it. Kyler? You think
Kyler.
Yeah? You like that stuff?
Kyler looked fantastic. I know it was an easy matchup for him. You can make that argument, but he was making tough plays. He looked great. He was utilizing his run game. He was utilizing the passing game. He was hitting these incredible passes to DeAndre Hopkins and Christian Kirk. I am hyped for Kyler Murray. Josh said it. Josh and I were talking about this a little earlier, and I do want to see Lamar Jackson play this week. And of course, Patrick Mahomes is always going to be in the conversation, but I feel like Kyler Murray, if he stays healthy, could be a lock for, top 3, top 4 QBs on the season in fantasy.
Absolutely.
He's wide receiver. He's dynasty wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
Anyway, Derrick Henry, guys. Derrick Henry.
That's what I was going to say.
Jay, tell me about him. Or Simon, someone tell me about Derrick Henry, because I don't know what just happened.
No,
I'll tell you
it was a bad game. It was a bad game, but he's still Derrick Henry, and the offense is still going to run through him. They got down to the Cardinals. The Tennessee defense was terrible, but I fully expect Derrick Henry to be Derrick Henry the rest of the season. Do any of you guys think this is very concerning for Henry this game?
No. The Cardinals defense looked fantastic. They looked so much better than I think most people were expecting. JJ Watt and why am I blanking on his name? The other defensive end, they were just putting pressure on Tannehill. Tannehill looked scared in the beginning of the game. He ended up sort of leveling the ship and looking better, and then they started to feed Derrick Henry. But in the beginning, it was like they weren't doing anything with Derrick Henry because I think they were just so caught off guard. So I'm not expecting this every week. I think Derrick Henry's going to be fine. You saw how many carries, 17 carries, 58 yards. It just
18 carries for 60 yards, dude.
Well, then this box score is wrong. Get out of here.
Mine says 18 for 60.
FanDuel coming in and J-Wall. Chandler Jones.
Thank you. My goodness. I was seeing this jersey.
Chandler Jones had a good game, apparently.
Incredible.
For you IDP
I don't know
players.
IDP, yeah.
Ooh.
50. I'm going against him in IDP. It's 50 points.
Yeah, you lost just because of Chandler Jones. You lost.
I think I might still win, which is the stupid part.
That's ridiculous. Outside of Derrick Henry, guys, before we move on to the next game, I want to make sure we at least touch on all of these. Julio Jones, I know people were excited for him. He came in, and you know what? He had 6 targets for 3 receptions and 29 yards. Pretty underwhelming performance. Are you concerned about Julio Jones going forward?
I wouldn't say concerned about Julio Jones, but I think people were concerned for A.J. Brown wrongly in this offseason. I think Brown is still the number one, and I think Julio Jones is the 1A, like we said a few times. I think that, they're both going to have their games, but A.J. Brown's a young guy. I think he's going to be the stud in this offense, and Julio's going to have his games, but you can't panic over one game.
Julio, who?
I may disagree with you slightly. I am going to disagree with you slightly. I think A.J. Brown's the 1 and Julio Jones is the 2 in this offense. Not a 1A, 1B situation for me.
Not his jersey number.
I'm gonna disagree with both of you. Chester Rodgers is the wide receiver.
Damn it, JL, you stole my joke. I was going to say he's the 1A.
2 wins.
One thing I will say
I'm a little worried about Julio Jones. That's all I'm going to say.
Henry got some targets, which is nice. You don't necessarily see that with him. He got 3 catches, so if he is able to turn it on the ground, that's nice to see.
Yeah, I think it's the same defensive argument for Julio, in my opinion. Let's see him next week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pittsburgh versus the Buffalo Bills. The Steelers coming out with a win, 23-16.
Man, I did
Josh
not think
Allen.
they were going to pull this one out.
Me neither. Ryan saying Arizona defense had the QBs running for their life the whole game. 100%. Yeah. Josh Allen, a lot of people, the most common quarterback I saw listed as QB1, if it wasn't Mahomes, was Josh Allen this offseason. He seemed to be the player people were most excited about at the quarterback position. And he had an all right game. It was fine, but it wasn't anything to write home about. Are you guys concerned about Josh Allen at all? Or do you think he's going to pick up where he left off last year? This was just an average game from him.
No, not at all. The Steelers gave up, I think it was the second least fantasy points to quarterbacks last year. Yep. It was going to be a tough matchup. Josh Allen's going to be just fine.
Yeah, this was a very defensive-based game. Like both defenses were playing well until the end. I feel like it got a little bit more offensive. But I wouldn't be too worried. He definitely still had that connection with Stephon Diggs, hit Cole Beasley a bunch, and I think this offense will move the ball a lot more in the coming weeks.
Yep, Joe, you hit on the point that I think is maybe the biggest takeaway from this game from the perspective of maybe things people weren't expecting or something that's actionable because, Stephon Diggs was already drafted, Josh Allen already drafted, Najee Harris, you were starting them. But Cole Beasley had 13 targets in this game, 13. I know it didn't turn into a huge fantasy day for him, 8 receptions for 60 yards. That's pretty good. Like if you put him in your flex, you're going to be happy with that, especially in PPR. That's 14 PPR points. But is this sustainable through the season? Are we going to see this kind of volume for Cole Beasley from Josh Allen?
We saw it last season, right? It's just a continuation of last season. We've been talking about it a lot because we were just finishing up our last drafts in the last 2 weeks or so.
Joe and I drafted Diesels.
We did. I
drafted him as well in a league that
it's just every single draft I was in, I was like, I don't want him. It's just like, I have to take him. He's such a good value here. He's just going to get the volume. So I think it is sustainable.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. On the other side of the ball.
Season. Yeah, exactly what JL said. I think last season.
On the other side of the ball, Harris, 16 carries for 45 yards. Not good. Was this a product of their offensive line like we saw for their running backs last year? Or was this just a poor outing from Najee Harris?
I think he's adjusting to that bad offensive line. All the runs that I saw, he was struggling. They would pretty much blow up before he even got to the line of scrimmage. I think that it's going to take some adjusting. Yeah, and I was expecting a little bit more receiving work to compensate for that. We knew that was going to be the O-line was going to be bad, but we just didn't see it much this game. Ben was like kind of not really connecting with Najee Harris. There's a few just easy missed short range passes that Najee could have maybe turned into a touchdown that Ben just missed.
I'm going to tell you guys this. Ben, I was kind of in the side of Ben kind of coming back this year, being more healthy, looking like more of his past self, but he did not. I'm nervous for Ben. That does not mean his receivers aren't going to get a lot of work. They are, but I think this might be Ben Roethlisberger's last season, and maybe I'm a little early on that, but we'll see. I'm not excited for to be a Ben Roethlisberger fan, but these receivers are who we thought they were. Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, all respectable games. We let them off the hook. But all respectable games, and they kind of fish in the order I would have expected. Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Juju. So,
yeah.
Okay, guys, we got 5 games to get through before the Sunday Night Football preview. So let's rapid fire through these. Big takeaways, Falcons and Eagles. Eagles absolutely dominated the Falcons. Jay, what was your biggest takeaway from this Falcons-Eagles game?
You had to go to me first, didn't you? Hopefully Jay Wall's left.
I'll help you out. The Falcons suck.
Yeah, well, I was going to go on the other side of the ball. Hopefully Dan is left, but Jalen Hurts looked really, really good. If he's able to put up these type of weeks, man, he could very easily wind up being in the top 5 fantasy quarterbacks. And the one thing I will say, Miles Sanders looked pretty solid as well. He was going really late in a lot of drafts. People didn't want him. And he put up almost 20 points. If he would have got that rushing touchdown versus Kenneth Gainwell, he'd have put up a great game. So, all the talk about the Eagles offense not being able to do anything, they look good. They look really, really good, as much as I hate to say it.
Yeah, and that Gainwell touchdown saved us over here in one of our experts leagues. We had to start him with Dobbins and Akers being our drafted running backs. Gainwell was our next guy up. And you know what? It worked out for us this week. How about your boy Hurts, Brian? Yeah, how about your boy Hurts? Jay hit it on the head. It looked great.
And then how about his weapons? Rager and Devonta Smith, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Smith
is too skinny. He can't play in the NFL, right? I
Both
thought
of them. I'm excited for both of them going forward, especially Devonta Smith. I still want to see a little bit more for Rager, but it looks like they've kind of carved out their roles in this offense, and I'm excited for both of them going forward.
Miles Sanders getting 5 targets. That was very nice as well.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I wrote down about this game, if you look at my notes, is Quez Watkins involved? ? He first 3 in the game and then nothing. So I answered that question. The answer is no. I don't think he's going to be involved. He just got the first 3 targets. Maybe they were trying to throw people off. On the Atlanta side, Kyle Pitts, I think people were a bit disappointed in. 4 receptions for 31 yards.
That's how you have to refer to him.
Hall of Famer Kyle Pitts was a little bit disappointing. 4 receptions for 31 yards. And Hayden Hurst was still involved in this offense. He was on the field quite a bit. Are you guys concerned for Kyle Pitts?
No.
Or first game rookie tight
I'm disappointed, not concerned.
Yes.
There we go. I think
more
that's
Matt Ryan than anything, because Matt Ryan did not look good.
I'm angry, not disappointed.
Yeah.
What?
Just think about it. Think what you've done, Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. Again, rookie first game. We'll see what happens.
And a game in which they were just getting obliterated.
Tight end. You're still going to put him in your lineup for where you drafted him. And 8 targets is good to see.
Yep.
Guys, up next, we are going to be talking about the Cleveland Kansas City Chiefs game. For some reason, the box score just disappeared. I mean, yeah, I know. I don't want to talk about it either. We're moving on to our evening games. Biggest takeaways from this game. One, for me, Chubb is still an incredible running back. He fumbled the ball, but just watch him run. He'll get hit behind the line of scrimmage and regularly pick up 8-9 yards afterwards. He's a monster at running back. John Luke, any other major takeaways from this game for you?
Yeah, no, I think I think this is one of the more predictable fantasy games. Almost all the players kind of had an outcome that you were expecting. So
I'll bring up Jarvis Landry. If Odell Beckham's not playing, Jarvis Landry is a must start in PPR of sorts. Not a must start, but I want him in my lineup if Odell Beckham is not playing going forward.
Yeah. And for me, the other surprising thing was the other Browns receiving options. Maybe it's because Odell Beckham was out, but Schwartz, the wide receiver, didn't expect him to get involved this early with the receiver depth chart the way it is, but he was targeted regularly. He's got that speed, and it looks like they want to use it. Like, holy cow, is Schwartz fast, and they're going to keep on using that. I expect him to stay involved based on how he
drew
looked
up
during
plays
that game.
specifically for him. Multiple
exactly.
plays.
it wasn't just he was open. They were plays designed for Schwartz, and that's a great sign.
Absolutely.
Plays
He's a guy I'm looking
Schwartz.
to pick
I
up.
love that.
I am looking up
Schwartz
to pick.
be with you. You guys are
May the
probably together.
Schwartz be on your
No,
roster. Pick him up.
No, Spaceballs.
There you go.
Spaceballs. Madeline says
And then-
Browns Super Bowl 2022. Yeah.
No,
2020.
no.
Oh, I guess the bowl would be in 2022. I was about
Maybe
to say by next season.
2028.
2028.
So on the other side of the ball, like we knew Tyreek Hill had a fantastic freaking game, 37 PPR points. Travis Kelsey again, the same thing. But Clyde Edwards are a little disappointing. But I love seeing that he got 14 attempts, while the second leading rusher Darrell Williams got 1 attempt. So he is going to be the ball carrier for the Chiefs, which is going to be valuable. But you're a little concerned seeing exactly what he produced from our fantasy perspective.
Got some hard-hitting analysis. Patrick Mahomes is good.
Patrick Mahomes is good.
And the Browns' defensive line is good.
That's
Like the Browns
exactly
do
what I was
have a
bringing up.
good defensive line. It made more sense for them to be throwing the ball in this game. While the Browns' secondary is improved, it is still the weaker part of their defense. I think this was just the game. I have not been the biggest Clyde Edwards-Helaire fan, but Josh, what you said, how he was, or the amount he was used compared to other backs, and then the defense they were going up against, CEH is going to be just fine this season.
Yeah.
Yep, completely agree.
There we go. Guys, our other 4 p.m. game that we're going to be talking about, Green Bay, New Orleans. The New Orleans Saints winning 38-3, and Jordan Love coming in relief for Aaron Rodgers. Who thought the Jameis Winston-led Saints would come and beat the Green Bay Packers by 35 points week 1 of the NFL
crap.
season?
Not I.
5 touchdowns for Jameis Winston.
I will say I think we got to be careful. I know Jordan Love came in. I think they took out all their starters, right?
They
I
benched
think
all
Green
the
Bay.
starters.
So it is what it is. Aaron Rodgers is going to be the quarterback for the Packers. Going forward,
Yes.
they would be idiotic to do anything otherwise. But they didn't look good. They looked really bad. In fact, while the Saints looked very good all around. So surprising.
Yeah,
Tony Jones Jr. with 11 carries. That has to be, if you have him on your bench, flex play, bye week replacement, he could be serviceable. So that has to be encouraging for anybody who has him.
Yeah, and I think Alvin Kamara on the other side has this game should quash all concerns that you had in the offseason that without Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara wasn't going to be who he was.
Ryan's a big Packers fan, if you couldn't tell by those emojis that he just threw up there. So.
I'm so sorry, Ryan.
Ryan.
At least you never had hope this week, at least. Like the hope was crushed pretty early.
I'm
So
sure they did.
didn't have to,
Like first
suffer
quarter,
all
there was
game?
still some hope.
Yeah, I guess there was.
Brian's right here. Yeah, I talked about this during the game. Actually, was Rodgers throwing the game? No, he wasn't. He was not throwing the game.
No, you don't know. As bad as he looked, you got to think. No, I'm just playing.
There's no way.
He's going to post his winnings on Twitter.
He's going to post his Vegas bet slip.
I don't know if
guys.
there's much to be said about the receiving options, like the wide receivers for the Saints.
Juwan Johnson, maybe.
What about Marquez Callaway?
That was surprising. There's a lot of hype around him, and only to get 2 targets in a game that he threw 5 touchdowns. That has to be a little concerning. Chris Hogan caught a touchdown.
Yeah.
Chris Hogan, what is Dynasty wide receiver 1? Chris Hogan.
He was in lacrosse still.
He was,
and
just decided to show up.
Juwan Johnson had the 2 touchdowns, but Adam Troutman did have double the amount of targets. He had 6 targets. It looks like both of those tight ends are going to be involved week basis. It may be difficult to decide which one to start. Though the way Johnson was used this week, you might want to lean starting Juwan Johnson over Adam Troutman, even though the volume is in Troutman's favor. The money with tight ends is made on touchdowns. They're not going to get enough volume unless your name is Kelsey, Waller, or Kittle, maybe Hawkinson
Andrews.
to make their money anywhere else.
Hawkinson.
Andrews, I guess. Hawkinson, yeah, that's the name I needed to make sure to say. We'll see with Andrews tomorrow, but Juwan Johnson with the touchdowns, he's worth an ad. He's worth a start if you're struggling at tight end. Jay, we got to get to your favorite game of the day. I'm pretty sure you love
skip over
because he's a Giants fan and they didn't do very good. I get it. That's funny.
So Jay,
talk about it.
Daniel Jones had a fumble, right?
I said it earlier to
Picked up
Josh.
where he
Daniel
left
Jones was Daniel Jones. He'd make a couple of, make some plays, have some pretty good passes, and then he would fumble the ball or throw it into the ground or at the defender or something like that. The only guy that looked good on the Giants was Sterling Shepard. 9 targets, had to be encouraging, 113 yards. He was another guy that was practically free. He's somebody that if he's out on the waiver, I could see him being on some waiver wires. I think he's a worthy pickup. Galladay looked good, but you could tell that he was injured and didn't have a chance to build that chemistry with Daniel Jones. And Barkley's going to be just fine. Like anybody who's concerned about Barkley, he'll be fine. We always knew it was going to take some time for him to knock the rust off, and they only had 10 carries. So I think Saquon's going to be just fine.
I think you do have to worry a little bit about his upside in this offense this season. I don't know that we're going to get the same Saquon, but I agree with you, Jay. I still don't, I'm not saying hit the panic button at all, but just maybe temper expectations a little.
Yeah, I agree with you guys there. The player, Dale, you brought it up. We've talked about him all off season, and I think we really need to mention here. Everyone was hyped about Javonte Williams, and you know what? I still am as well. But Melvin Gordon is not going away. He was good last year. He's still a good running back. 11 carries, 101 yards, and a touchdown. Do you expect him to stay this relevant throughout the season, or do you think Javonte is going to start taking some of that work? Because he looked good today.
He did. He had 14 carries to Melvin Gordon's 11.
Yeah.
And Melvin Gordon had a 70-yard run. We got to keep in mind that added to his 101.
Speaking of which, I think David Montgomery on Sunday Night Football just had about a 70-yard run to put the Bears.
Oh, did he? Oh, it
started. Yep. Game started. Bears are first play. Bears are already in the red zone.
There we go. Then, guys, you know what? Let's hit this last game quickly, and then I know everyone's dying to go watch some Sunday Night Football. We're going to start losing people watching the Bears.
One thing we should probably mention too is Jerry Jeudy getting hurt.
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
yes.
Man.
We mentioned a little earlier in the show.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy out 6 to 8 weeks likely.
Ankle sprain. And Cortland Sutton, a little nervous about him. I expected a better game without Jerry Jeudy in there. Just wanted to throw that out.
Miami Dolphins versus the New England Patriots is our last game we're going to be talking about today. And Brian said he's on a delay, Jay. What the hell? Spoiling Sunday Night Football.
Happy to help.
What's the matter with you?
And Anthony said, Javonte, who? And Rick, man, you're just spoiling it for everyone.
You.
I think for me, one of the biggest takeaways from this game is the Dolphins beat the Patriots week 1. So either the Patriots aren't bouncing back to form like we thought, or this Dolphins are a much improved team. Josh, what do you think? Which one of those is it, or is it a combination of the two?
I think it's a combination of the two. I actually lean towards Miami being a competent team. I think Tua looked good. I know he threw an interception, but I thought he did everything he needed to do to win this game. Jaylen Waddle is something that I really came away impressed with.
Yeah,
I think Jaylen Waddle is going to be a great receiver this year. And I think the Patriots are going to be good going forward as well. I think their offense is figuring some stuff out. I mean, Mack Jones had a fine game. He looked a little bit rookie-ish, but I mean, the weapons came together, and there were some actually good fantasy performances on the Patriot side of the ball.
Yeah, Jonnu Smith, Nelson Aguilar. Both looked really good.
Tua also gets Will Fuller back next week because he was suspended for this week. So he's going to get another weapon in that receiving core. So I think Tua is going to be A-okay.
It's not irrelevant. I was forced into a Jaylen Waddle start with the OBJ news, but I was really happy with what I saw today from him. That looked good. And then, Josh, you were talking about Damian Harris.
I like Damian Harris. Listen, he looked good. I know his stats. 23 carries, 100 yards, but he only got 11.7 fantasy points. He did fumble. He did have 2 receptions, which is promising. I think Damian Harris is going to have a good season. I really do. He impressed the hell out of me.
Yeah, he looked very
good. The most carries was Brandon Bolden and Rashad, one carry each. I mean, for the backup. So
yeah, he's clearly the one.
James White had 4 attempts. Sorry,
I was about to say it's one more than 4, but I wasn't going to call you out. But that's okay. You called yourself.
You just did.
I love you, Josh.
And then we
talked
about Tua. We talked about Tua a bit, but Mack Jones made his first career start for the Patriots. Week 1, rookie quarterback out of Alabama coming in. What did you guys think about his performance this week?
I thought he looked great. I thought he had great pocket presence, which we've known all along. I thought that he looked very comfortable in this game. I don't know that it was necessarily like knock your socks off type of performance, but I was impressed by Mack Jones.
He screamed Belichick quarterback to me in there. Like, just absolutely,
Yeah.
I get it now. I get why Belichick drafted him. I get why he was fully comfortable cutting Cam. This is the type of quarterback he wants running his system, and it's working. And I think it's going to continue to work. Mac Jones is going to look great this season. But like you said, JL, maybe for fantasy purposes, he's not a knock your socks off kind of player, but he's going to be consistent, especially for a rookie, I think.
Yeah, I think he'll get better.
Yeah, I agree. Other takeaways from this, guys. Our last game we're going to be talking about today.
None for me.
No, I think we hit it all.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty much everything.
Guys,
I'm excited.
Alert,
Football! Let's go! We're
still
back!
Andy
Let's
Dalton.
go!
Oh, it was like
Andy
nothing, and
Dalton.
then all of a sudden turning on a fire hose. It was so much football today.
Today was a little bit overwhelming, honestly. There was a lot of football going on. Like, I forgot what it was like to try to watch 9 games at once. Like, you got 2 pulled up, and then it's like highlights here, highlights there. What's going on?
Yeah,
but man, was it the most fun chaos I've had in a very long time. And Anthony, we are leaving you, but you can find us.
We're
tomorrow.
always there. We're always right
We're
there.
always there. We're never more than 48 hours away, Anthony. 100%. Okay, guys. Brian saying, boys, great job. Enjoyable content. We appreciate it, Brian. Thank you for coming in, asking questions, participating with us in the chat. And for everyone watching, we're going to be here every Sunday during this season at 7 p.m. So make sure you like this video and hit that follow button on the FanDuel YouTube, or the subscribe button on the FanDuel YouTube channel, and follow FanDuel on Twitch to make sure you can hang with us every Sunday evening as we break down the day's games.
Yes.
This was fun.
This was.
Okay, guys.
Trading does make fantasy fun, too.
Trading does make fantasy fun. Guys, I think that's it for us today. Until next week.
Parker.
Oh, Parker. We'll welcome in. Nice to have you here.
Buddy.
Really great. We'll see you later. We'll see you guys next week. Same time. Adios, everybody.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you.